All right, so the culture has a lot of competing images about what womanhood is. What culture tells us womanhood is about working hard, being a girl boss, or womanhood is about being a mother and being a wife, or womanhood is about something else entirely. And so what we're gonna do in this episode is look at some recent news stories that showcase what womanhood is and might not be. And I think in politics right now, especially, there is a strong representation that womanhood is about so-called reproductive rights coming from, unfortunately, an entire campaign run by Kamala Harris right now claiming that womanhood is the right to be able to kill your baby. So there was a recent rally in Houston that Kamala hosted with some very popular and famous actors and artists. We're going to talk about that and what went on in that Houston rally. But I wanted to start with the positive first because, unfortunately, it's easy, especially with social media news, to focus on all the negative stories. But there are good stories that are representing womanhood well. And so we're going to start with somebody that I like to keep an eye on in what she's doing in her public work. And she actually kind of went private for a while to be able to focus on her family more. She still worked, but she wasn't in the limelight as much. And this is someone named Eva Mendes. So we're going to start with her and some clips of her talking about her decision to focus on motherhood. And we're going to look at how that contrasts with the representation of motherhood that is happening at some of these political rallies. During this episode 2 of the show, I'm going to be keeping my eye on the chat. So let me see if you guys can hear me good. Audio is great. Thank you. Tom says being a mother is the hardest job. Yes, being a mother can be a hard job, but it's also an incredibly rewarding job. Hello, Caleb. Hello, Elle. Elle is talking about the recent announcement from the Vatican about this new anime character that they're using as this kind of mascot for the year named Luce, which means light, which can mean light. And it's this cute kind of overture, I guess, to Gen Z and those that love anime. So anyways, I thought that was cute. I know there's a lot of controversy around this little anime character, but Al is talking about that, saying a lot of Christians are calling her Luce Lucifer. All right, I don't know that this little anime character actually is a devil in disguise. It is just a cute mascot that the Vatican is using as an outreach to those that love anime. That's fine by me, not a big deal. But hi, Zach. Zach's saying hello here. Gianna, thanks for joining. Thank you guys for being here. Okay. So let's go to this recent article out about Eva Mendes. And this is from Evie Magazine, which is a great publication that's doing a lot of fun and good reporting for women about, I think, uplifting things that are happening in the culture. And yeah, men can read this too. But I think Eva is a good example of showing life as a mother and as a wife in a beautiful way, while still obviously focusing on her creative work as an actor and as a businesswoman. So this article is specifically referencing some recent comments that Eva made about how she will not return to acting, because this is a big famous actor. We might remember her from movies like Hitch, and she is beautiful, very talented, and she has spoken out publicly about how she will not return to acting. And she's, by the way, I should have mentioned already, she's married to Ryan Gosling. So he's the Ken from Barbie, obviously a huge actor. And she said she will not return to acting unless it is in films that don't involve sexuality or gore, and only if it is alongside her husband. What a refreshing standard for her to set. I love seeing this kind of feminine leadership coming from somebody as talented as Eva. She's beautiful, she's talented, she has children of her own, and she's publicly saying, I don't want to be in movies that have sexuality, heavy sexuality and violence, and if I'm gonna be in a movie, I want it to be with my own husband. But one of the things that really caught my eye was this conversation that Eva actually had with Hoda, where she talks about her decision to focus on motherhood and put motherhood first in her personal life. So let's take a listen.
Number of different things, but this is the most creative thing, is to create life with them. So
you had your babies and kind of stepped away from the spotlight.
So wait, I'm going to pause really quick. Let's go back a little further, because she's talking about her creative work, and then she has this beautiful comment about motherhood being the most creative work, which of course it is, and parenthood. So let's go back just a few more seconds and we'll play that again, and then we'll listen to what Hoda's question is.
Yeah, that's when it made sense.
It just clicked in?
Yeah, because I, so in love, and I'm like, oh, right, I want to create life with you. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I feel like parenting is the most creative thing I've ever done, I'm an actress. I've designed clothes. I've done, different number of different things. But this is the most creative thing, is to create life with them. So
You had your babies and kind of stepped away from the spotlight.
Yeah.
Tell me about that choice. I have friends who made that exact same choice, and they stepped away, pursued motherhood full time, which is a beautiful decision. Tell me about what that has meant to you.
Well, I really took it back to when I was little. I was able to, even though we were very, very lower middle class, my mom was able to be there for me at home until I was about 8 or 9. And those memories for me, that just formed who I was, those years with her. And I just thought, I feel fortunate enough that, that I could have taken some time out from acting. I actually still worked. I just didn't act.
You just didn't act,
Right? And so I just felt lucky enough. I'm like, damn, I really want this time with them. And then now, I'm obsessed. You should have seen me leaving. We're in London right now. Ryan's filming a movie, and
All right, you can pause it here. It goes on. She keeps talking about how she's now entering back into work, that the girls are a little bit older, and how she did some work when they were younger, but she wasn't on set filming movies because that would take her away from her children for hours and hours and days on end. And I think this is so beautiful what she's saying here. I love it. She's saying that the most creative thing that she's ever done, Eva Mendes is saying the most creative thing that she's ever done is to create new life with her husband, Ryan. And that creating life with her husband was such a joy that she got to do this in her marriage. And I think this is a great and beautiful representation of why marriage and motherhood and parenthood is such a beautiful gift. Because you are doing the most creative work that you can possibly do by working with God to bring a new soul into the world. And then I loved what Eva said afterwards, where she, Hoda was asking her about how she knows herself, women who have stepped away from work when they had children, when they were very young, and that they made this beautiful decision. And what did Eva think about that? And then she shares that she was privileged to have a mother who was able to be with her through much of her very young childhood and be able to make those core memories with her, be there and present for her. And she wanted to offer that to her girls. Now, if you listen to more of what Eva says later on, she does say that she was still doing some work. It's not like she completely pieced out of all work and she was completely not contributing economically into the family unit. No, she was still involved in work, but she chose work very intentionally as a mother of young children, 2 young girls, that would provide for her, enable her to be able to be there for her girls, that she wasn't just dropping them off and then taking off for set or taking off for long hours on end, but that she was able to be there quality and quantity time for her girls. And again, I know we talk about this on the podcast, and I know that this can be controversial for some, because there is a sensitivity. Some moms are working because they absolutely have to for their family, or they're doing important creative work. And I think all of that can be a very good contribution. I think the tricky part enters in where we're making decisions about how much time are we spending with our children versus our creative work or the economic work that's important to support our family. We have to do what we've got to do in the end to support our families. But I think that prioritizing time with our children, and the most important work, the most creative work that one can do, which is helping bring a soul into existence and nurturing that soul, helping develop that human being, that should get more celebration, quite frankly, and more support in our culture. So to see someone like Eva saying loud and proud that this was the decision that she made and how grateful she is that she got to be that primary care for her girls and be there for them in their childhood, I think it's a great role model to this generation of women. Because the reality is, as you guys know, and if you're a man or you're a woman listening, I'm sure you've picked up on these messages from culture. There is an aggressive push in our culture to denigrate motherhood, to make motherhood all about this choice about your reproductive right to kill a baby. I mean, that's how motherhood is talked about politically now. It's not in terms of having babies and caring for them, but in terms of being able to having the right to kill a baby. So that's absolutely abject horrible. And then in addition, there is this, I think this, maybe we're afraid of offending people who don't have children or offending people who say they don't want to have children. But there's this approach to the incredible project of parenthood as if it's the choice of, adopting a dog or not, getting a dog from the pet store or not, or choosing one career over another or not. Children are not products or accessories. Children are sacred gifts that literally define the future of our civilization and our country. And so the project of being a parent, a father and a mother, it is the most important work culturally because you're literally raising the next generation. But I think there is an overemphasis in our culture today on pursuing, higher degrees and education and becoming very successful and being very healthy and physically beautiful and all of these things, famous, all of these things, and being an influencer, whatever. And there's less of, social power around and support around the project of being a mother. I've said before, we put celebrities on the cover of magazines and models and famous people on the cover of magazines. Well, the person I think that should be on the cover of magazines is the person raising the future, the mother, the family raising the future that are investing and prioritizing their life around supporting and raising those kids. Like that should be the cultural model of what we're aiming at. And those that support the family unit, maybe you don't have kids yourself, or maybe, your call is not to get married, but you're still supporting other families in your community. That should be the goal. So good for you, Eva Mendes. Thank you for being a role model. It's hard to find them today in many ways, but thank you for being a role model and showcasing the beauty of motherhood and also love of marriage and love of your husband. All right, so that was the good story that I had to point out. And again, kudos to Eva. Let's go to what just happened a few days ago. You guys might have seen news clips from this already. This was the Houston, Texas rally in support of Kamala Harris. As you guys know, it's a week before the election, and Kamala Harris is, pounding pavement, as is Donald Trump, trying to curry favor with voters, get voters. And Kamala Harris's campaign continues to double down on its support of abortion on demand without apology. And I wanted to point to specifically some of the statements that were made at one of these latest Kamala Harris rallies, because she had some big names joining her on stage. She had Beyonce there. Beyonce did disappoint many fans because she did not perform. She was not there to sing. She was there to speak. And what she said, let's take a look at what she said.
I'm not here as a celebrity. I'm not here as a politician. I'm here as a mother. A mother who cares deeply about the world my children and all of our children live in. A world where we have the freedom to control our bodies. A world where we're not divided. Our past, our present, our future merge to meet us here. Imagine our daughters growing up seeing what's possible with no ceilings, no limitations. Imagine our grandmothers. Imagine what they feel right now. Those who have lived to see this historic day. Even those who are no longer physically with us. Imagine all of their sacrifice.
Okay, let's pause here. So here Beyonce is invoking the role of motherhood as the reason that she even showed up to the rally. And when she talks about why she is at Kamala Harris's rally and endorsing her for president, when she talks about why it is, she says she's a mother. And then she goes on to say, use that catchphrase, the right to control our bodies. That's why I'm here. Because as a mother, I want the right to control our bodies for all women and for my daughters. And again, what is she actually talking about here? Because on one level, the rhetoric might sound a bit persuasive, like, yes, I have the right to the protection of my body. I have the right to use my body and move my body and not have anyone hurt my body. Yes. But she's, of course, talking about, we're not dumb here, she's talking about the right to end the life of an innocent preborn child. That's what she's referencing here. And it is so, it still amazes me how this slides. This is accepted as rhetoric and people can cheer for this, when what it's really talking about, when you take away the rhetoric, the nice sounding words, is the lethal destruction of a human life. Our womanhood, our power as women, is not dependent on the right to kill a baby. And our ability to be mothers is what makes us uniquely women, right? Why are we different from men as women? Because we have the reproductive ability to carry life, to nurture life, and to bring life into the world. And so to say that our power to destroy life, our power to snuff out a life is somehow our unique superpower is the opposite, is the inverse of what it really means to be a woman. Now, of course, not every woman brings life into the world. Not every woman realizes that beautiful potential that we have. That's okay. But that is uniquely what makes us different from men. We can be mothers and men can be fathers. And so how did we get to this place where this is the representation of motherhood, my ability to take life instead of my ability to nurture and create life? And listen to what Beyonce said afterwards. She talked about how I believe in this world, or I want this world where we're not divided, and we're at this historic moment, and imagine our daughters growing up and there's no ceilings, no limitations. All of that sounds good, right, guys? All of that sounds good. We want there to be so many possibilities and so much potential for everyone, for every woman, for every man. But again, the context here is the right to kill. That is the context that Beyonce is bringing to this rally. And that is the context of the entire rally. When Kamala Harris gets up to speak at her own rally, some of the first words out of her mouth is to talk about, quote unquote, reproductive freedom. That's what she's there to advocate for. Her whole campaign is around the right to kill. And so, Western women, choose your way. What's our way as Western women? Is it the way of valuing what it means to be uniquely a woman, which is the potential to bring life into the world, and treating as sacred the project of motherhood? Or is it to say, my power as a woman is my ability to dominate and even destroy a child's life? Because that is the choice before us. Let's listen to another clip here from Jessica Alba, who also spoke at the Houston rally.
As a mother, I'm excited by VP Harris's new way forward, focused on uplifting families and the middle class. They will expand the child tax credit to provide a $6,000 tax cut to families with newborn children. Because they believe that no child in America should live in poverty. As an entrepreneur, I am inspired that as part of her opportunity economy agenda, Kamala is fighting to help small businesses and entrepreneurs innovate and grow by expanding the startup expense tax deduction for new businesses from $5,000 to $50,000.
So I think we can pause it here really quick. She's going to get to abortion, of course, unfortunately, in a moment. But I think it is important to note that the child tax credit is a bipartisan, thankfully for this, a bipartisan policy. And there are many pro-life Republicans who have been pushing for this in the House and the Senate now for years. In fact, Live Action has a different model legislation that we're promoting to provide cash credits for families that have children. And there's even another piece of legislation that's promising or trying to put into effect income tax breaks for, and even making them tax-free for families that have 3 or more children. This is, of course, in response to the fact that the birth rate in the West is rapidly declining, and especially in the United States, we're below replacement rate in our birth rate. This means that we are not having enough children, and we can't even replace ourselves as a population. And when this happens, when demographic population decline happens in this way, it can have huge economic and social problems for the country, because now you don't have a younger generation that's up and growing, and the population is aging. Why is this happening? Why is there such a population decline in the United States? Well, I think it's largely in part to the anti-life ideology of abortion and the anti-life ideology of materialism that says that my career, my financial pursuits, my own selfish pursuits, or my desire to experience the world on my own terms, radical autonomy, is more important than a child's life. And included in that is my radical autonomy to be able to kill a child if they inconvenience me. Of course, that's the abortion rate in this country, 3,000 abortions a day. Well, let's go back to Alba. So again, some of what she's saying here sounds good. And it's also things that on the Republican side that they're promoting. But let's see what she says next.
And as a woman, I know we need a leader like Kamala Harris, who is dedicated to protecting reproductive freedom.
It's like the loudest cheer
Ensuring
here.
that decisions about your body are made by you. Right? Never by the government. Because Kamala Harris understands that protecting reproductive freedom isn't about politics. It's about our right to choose. And these are just a few of Kamala's policies and beliefs.
Okay, we can
that will
pause it here. You'll notice that the most passion in her statement and the biggest applause from this particular crowd of many abortion advocates in Houston, Texas at this Kamala Harris rally was for the reproductive right to choose what you want to do with your body, which again is code for killing a baby. Imagine if Jessica Alba and Beyonce came up and said, I have the right to kill a baby in the womb. Of course, maybe some of the crowd would have cheered. That would have been absolutely heartbreaking. But it's harder to cheer for that because you're being honest about what abortion is. It's easier to mask abortion with positive sounding words like reproductive freedom, my body, things like this, instead of acknowledging what an abortion actually is and what it does. I do have hope that if more people knew what abortion was, they would not be for it. And we've done a lot of surveying and a lot of research at Live Action. When people actually see what an abortion is, when they actually understand what these abortion procedures entail, even pro-choice women, many of them become pro-life, or at minimum have more negative feelings about abortion than they did before, because they're confronted with what this abortion procedure is actually doing to the body of an innocent child. Abortion isn't just about the body of a mother, as Beyonce and Jessica Alba represent here. Abortion is about the destruction of the body of an innocent human life. And what about their choice? What about the choice for that baby? It's also, sad here. I mean, Jessica Alba, she has companies, the Honest Company, you may have heard of it and you might see it if you go shopping, if you're in Target. I hope you're not in Target, by the way. We're still boycotting Target over here because of their promotion of gender ideology to kids. But if you're at, let's say, another store and you see an Honest product, she has this line of products, and many of these products also include diapers and products for babies. That's why I love Every Life. This is actually just a shout out for our friends over at Every Life. If you guys have heard me talk about them on the podcast before, but everylife.com is a pro-life diaper company, and they actually sell a best-in-class product that is better than the Honest Company's product that is designed for babies, and they're giving part of the proceeds back to the pro-life movement. So if you're a parent or if you know parents, buy your diapers from everylife.com, not from Honest Company or from some of these other groups that are tragically supporting abortion. I mean, it's so tragic that Pampers and Huggies and some of these groups are supporting abortion. The conglomerates that own them are actually donating money to Planned Parenthood. And of course, here's Jessica Alba, the owner of Honest Company, promoting abortion on stage at this Kamala Harris rally. All right, the last thing I want to mention about this rally, though, was comments from Kamala Harris specifically about maternal mortality. And this is really important because I want to debunk something that Kamala Harris said at her own rally. This is what she said. I'm going to just read the quote here. She's talking about how she's calling them the Trump abortion bans. She says, these same people who have argued that these Trump abortion bans are in the best interest of women and children, look at their records. They tend to be in states with the highest rate of maternal mortality in the country. This is one of the talking points of the abortion side right now, that somehow abortion on demand will help maternal mortality rates. You may have heard this before. And they claim that if you ban abortion, you're going to hurt maternal mortality rates. That is a complete lie. It's a complete fabrication. And if you dig a little deeper and look at what is being referenced here by Kamala Harris at some of her rallies, you'll find that she's referencing the fact that there has been an increase in some states in maternal deaths between the years of 2020, 2021, and into 2022. And so what has happened is some of these abortion advocates have weaponized that data, saying the maternal mortality rate has increased during this period of time between 2020 and 2022. And they claim it's because of abortion bans. That's what they're saying. When the reality is Dobbs wasn't even in effect. Dobbs hadn't been ruled yet, the decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, until after these dates that maternal mortality was increasing. But what was happening during this time of 2020 to 2022 was the COVID-19 pandemic. And so you actually look at, and this is something I'm going to pull up for you guys to look at here. You actually look at what even the CDC is saying, and this is from, this is a report on maternal health, and let me know if you guys can see this. Outcomes worsened and disparities persisted during the pandemic. And it talks about how each year in the United States, hundreds of women die from complications related to pregnancy and childbirth, known as maternal death. It says GAO's analysis of Centers for Disease Control and Prevention data, that's a CDC data, the government agency that is responsible for collecting data on maternal health outcomes. It says the data shows that maternal deaths increased during the COVID-19 pandemic. Further, the data shows that the COVID-19 pandemic was a contributing factor in 1/4 of all maternal deaths in 2020 and 2021 combined. So this right here fully debunks this incredibly misleading talking point that's being promoted during Kamala Harris's campaign, as well as among, unfortunately, other media groups and in these state ballot initiatives that are being fought right now, that somehow abortion bans lead to poor maternal outcomes, health outcomes. When the reality is some of the struggles of maternal mortality, the increase in maternal mortality, has to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. And the CDC is even showing this, is even stating this from its own data. And so to say that abortion bans, which are not preventing healthcare for women, they are stopping the intentional taking of innocent human lives, are responsible, is an outright lie. It's a fabrication. There is no evidence to suggest that an abortion ban hurts maternal health in any way. In fact, you can look at evidence to the contrary, that when doctors are focused on both patients and caring for both mother and baby, which is the pro-life way, you can actually see strong maternal health outcomes and lower maternal mortality rates. Some examples of this include the country of Malta, which has some of the lowest maternal mortality rates in the world, and they have a complete abortion ban in the country of Malta. Another example would be Ireland before it legalized abortion. In the decades before Ireland legalized abortion, they had some of the best maternal health rates in the country and the lowest maternal mortality rates, some of the least amount of maternal deaths, because the doctors were focused on loving and caring for both baby and for mother. So one last thing I need to say here to debunk this is sometimes, Kamala Harris or others will point to some states that have poor maternal health outcomes that also have abortion bans and claim, well, that's because of the abortion ban. But you look at some of these states and you evaluate, even before their abortion ban went into place, how their maternal health outcomes were, and you discover that they had poor maternal health outcomes even before the abortion ban. For example, states like Mississippi, Louisiana, Georgia, and Arkansas have historically struggled with maternal health due to issues like healthcare access, high poverty rates, rural healthcare shortages, and less investment in maternal and preventive care services. So to say that a ban on killing babies is responsible for more mothers dying is a complete fabrication. And no evidence bears it out. And in fact, the evidence bears out that if there are issues and an increased maternal mortality rate in recent years, it's the COVID-19 pandemic that is to blame. So very important point of debunking here. I know you guys are constantly looking at the craziness in news media and all of the lies that are swirling about abortion, but I had to take a moment to debunk that coming from, again, the Houston Kamala Harris rally. But all that to say, look at the dramatic difference at these competing visions of motherhood. Eva Mendes talking about how she loves her kids. The most creative work she's ever done was to bring life into the world. She is prioritizing her family and her kids versus this rally where Beyonce and Jessica Alba are getting up there and saying that the most important thing that they're fighting for and the reason they're advocating for Kamala Harris to be the president is because of reproductive freedom, aka the right to kill a baby. Which way will we go, Western woman? Which way will we go? Let's go the way that embraces our femininity, our womanhood, and our potential to be mothers by embracing the lives of children and not seeing those children's lives as a threat and a burden. All right, before I close out here, I want to do another positive story that I saw. This caught my eye recently. This is a post that is made by a woman named Catherine Ruth Pakaluk. We're actually going to have Catherine on the podcast soon. You're going to enjoy that. Catherine is an author and a professor as well as a mother, and she has many children. I believe she has 9 children, if I have the number correctly here. She is an incredible person who is not only highly educated and doing incredible creative work, but she's prioritizing her most important creative work, which is raising these beautiful kids. And she had something really lovely to say on Twitter recently, or on X, that I wanted to share with you. But before that, I want to do a big thank you to our sponsor, which is We Heart Nutrition. We Heart Nutrition provides wholesome supplements and vitamins, and they have wholesome values. Not only does We Heart Nutrition use the highest quality, research-backed ingredients that are always in the most bioavailable form, We Heart Nutrition is also unapologetically pro-life. In fact, 10% of every sale of their vitamins is given back to pregnancy care centers. You may not know this, but many of the major multivitamin companies are owned by corporations that donate directly to Planned Parenthood. With We Heart Nutrition, it's the opposite. It's not only a best-in-class vitamin, but they're donating 10% of their proceeds back to pro-life resource centers. We Heart Nutrition sells vitamins for women at every age and stage of life, including options for preconception, pregnancy, postpartum, and postmenopause. So go to weheartnutrition.com today. Use the code Lila for 20% at checkout. Now, when you place an order of $50 or more at weheartnutrition.com, you will receive a free signature bamboo capsule box. These boxes are adorable and make taking your vitamins or traveling with them easy. Check out weheartnutrition.com and use the code Lila at checkout for 20% off. That's weheartnutrition.com. All right, guys, thank you so much for supporting We Heart Nutrition and Every Life. These are awesome pro-life companies that are providing amazing products. So I know that it's a huge blessing for the company when they get supported by groups that share their values and individuals that share their values. And I hope you're loving their products. So let me know what you think, by the way, We Heart Nutrition's vitamins as well as Every Life's diapers. Okay. So Catherine Ruth Pakaluk, she recently wrote a book called Hannah's Children about the incredible beauty and the sacrifices involved in saying yes to life as a mother, not just yes to 1 or 2 lives, but yes to many lives. I need to share here briefly before I read what she wrote, which is very beautiful. You guys may know this. I'm one of 8 kids. Husband's one of 8 kids. We come from this incredible background that I'm extremely grateful for, of mothers and fathers who were so open to life. And I will say, as an adult child now of my parents, I am even more grateful than I was as a kid that I have so many siblings, because there's nothing more precious in the world than bonds of love with family members, chosen and otherwise, and to be given the gift of siblings is an incredible blessing. And my best friends to this day are many of my best friends are my brothers and my sisters. And getting together, family reunions, having all the now cousins together, the nieces and nephews, the grandchildren, it is such an incredible blessing to see just the love multiplying because of all of that yes to life. And I know, of course, not everyone is blessed with many children. There's miscarriage, there's infertility, and those are struggles. And some people aren't called to get married. And that's beautiful too, because they're called to a spiritual motherhood or fatherhood of other people. Some people are still single, hoping to one day get married, or they're wrestling with their vocation. Your life is absolutely beautiful, worth living, and you have an incredible gift to give by loving other people. And anybody can be a spiritual parent. But I want to say that our culture, we should be celebrating and valuing more those that are saying yes to life in such a generous way and willing to have big families. We need to normalize big families. I can't tell you the number of times that I'm out with my kids. I only have 3 kids, as you guys know. And people ask me, are you done yet? It's almost every single time I'm out with my kids. We get a compliment or 2. People are very kind and loving, but I'm often asked, are you going to have more? Oh, you got your girl. Our youngest is a girl. We have 2 older boys. Oh, are you guys done? And I always, people are always surprised because I often say, oh, we'd love to have more. It would be such a blessing to have more. Oh no, we hope to have as many as we can have. And the surprise on people's faces that's registered when I make a comment like that, because it's just the baked in mentality today that 1 and done, 2 and done, 3 maybe, and then definitely done. And so Catherine Pakaluk, has written this book, which is the stories of women who've had many children, and not in an easy way. I'm not trying to glamorize it or make it sound easy. Having a lot of children requires a lot of sacrifice, and it stretches you. Even 3 children like I have learned so much about patience, and I'm still learning about patience on a daily basis. I am far from perfect, and I'm struggling each day to be a better mom, but we make mistakes. There is no greater responsibility that I've been given than the responsibility of getting to raise these children and helping form them into the men and women God created them to be. And so Catherine Pakaluk has this book out, and we're going to cover in this podcast, but she recently said this on X, and I wanted to read this because I was really moved by it. She says, I don't know who needs to hear this, but most of you are going to decide you're done having kids when they're still little, when their needs are endless and you can't remember why you wanted kids in the first place. Trouble is, it's years too soon. And I just want to pause here for a sec. I know so many people, this is the case. They're like, I'm done having kids. And then, many of them, especially if they're not practicing Catholics, maybe they'll encourage their husband to get a vasectomy, or maybe they will, do some sort of birth control and just say, I'm done having kids. They'll get their tubes tied, whatever it is. And they say, well, I had 1, 2, or 3, or maybe even 4. I'm done. And Catherine Pakaluk goes on to say, it's too soon to make that decision, especially when you're in the sleepless nights of when they're very young. She goes on to say, because it'll be years before you lock eyes with her in a Czech diner in Warsaw on an impromptu trip, when you know exactly what dessert she wants for her birthday, and you realize you'd go to the end of the world and back again for her and think the toil was still all pleasure. Because she is the best, most wonderful being you know, and you still feel, like the day she was born, that you can't believe you got to keep her. That's when you know that you could have had a couple more kids, because you feel that way about her siblings too. And what a great thing to feel that way about anyone. And what a miracle that she feels that way about you too. So all you with little kids, dream today about that future flight you're going to book to Europe to meet your daughter on her study abroad, to buy her a mocha milkshake sundae in a shabby diner on a rainy day in a town you don't know. When your heart will be bursting with gratitude and joy that she's yours, it'll all be clear then, and you'll weep with happiness that you stepped out in faith when it seemed you couldn't pull through. And then she quotes Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Now, she's talking about her yes to this daughter's life, and now she's enjoying her daughter as a teenager. I mean, I think about my own family, and my mom, I'm one of 8, like I said. I'm the third oldest, the girl in the middle of 5 boys. And if my mom had stopped at 4 or 5, I wouldn't have my sisters. I wouldn't have my 2 youngest sisters, who are the 2 youngest kids in the lineup of the 8 children, who are 2 of my best friends and who I love with my entire heart, and they bring me so much joy. And I find it so beautiful. My mother even says to this day, oh, I wish I'd had even more. I wish I'd had even more. She had 8 kids. And she said, I wish I'd had even more, because now she sees even more than she did before. And I know she saw it before too, the incredible richness of a life populated with the people that you love. And what is life about? Life is about God and people. It's about loving God and people and serving God and people. And saying yes to more people is never a mistake. Saying yes to more people is never a mistake. So thank you, Catherine Pakaluk, for your witness. And I'm excited to have you on the show in the future. I think you guys are going to love hearing her perspective and the perspective of the many women, some of them who had health issues, economic issues, even problems with some of their younger children having their own health issues or disabilities, and they still were saying yes to life and being open to life. And again, this is not to say they didn't have any spacing involved with their children, or there were seasons maybe when they decided to wait before conceiving again, and they would practice natural family planning because of some significant health event or some significant economic issue. But ultimately, they erred on the side of generosity in co-creating with God, like Eva Mendes was talking about, that creation of a new life being the most creative work. And because of it, their lives are that much more full of richness and beauty because they said yes to life. All right, I'm going to take a quick look at the chat here. The chat's going on. Thank you, everybody, again, for tuning in here. Sips with Sarah, thank you for joining. Our friend Sips with Sarah, he says, imagine a diaper company and supporting the murder of your future customers. Yeah, great point here. I want to know what you guys think of loose Lucy, the new anime character from the Vatican. It actually created a lot of controversy online. Again, I think that she's cute and harmless and even fun. I don't understand why people are so upset, but it is what it is. That's the social media world. Jeffrey says, thank you, Lila, for courageously standing up for life, objective truth, and strong morals and values. God bless you and your team. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I really appreciate that. And I big kudos to my team, too, that right now is making this live possible, and all the people who are working at Live Action as well, who are doing that work day in and day out. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining this episode of the Lila Rose podcast. I want to encourage you to, wherever you are in your life, whatever kind of vocation you are living right now, to put love first, put loving God and loving other people first, and to celebrate the gift it is to be able to love and to be able to, if you are a woman and you have kids, those children that God has entrusted with you. Or maybe you don't have children, but your ability to maybe spiritually mother another person, or to be able to be there and nurturing and loving and serving another person. This is what life is all about. Thank you so much for listening to the Lila Rose podcast, and we will see you guys next time.